begin with the facts. Whether in a small town like McAllen and the Rio Grande, or in Chicago, New York, or Los Angeles, it is business. Big business.
Welcome to the Girl Get Visible podcast. This show talks about traffic, marketing, and business. This is for the retailers, the coaches, the course creators, and service providers who want to build a legacy, build authority, and build a brand that people admire. The visible girls who are not afraid to get out of the sea of sameness and to find her tribe. Business owners ready to go from consumers to creators and build an online presence where your tribe can find you. We talk about topics like SEO, content marketing, and business systems, but that's only because our visible girls are ready to do business like a business. Stop hiding in the crowd and get visible.
Girl, get visible. Girl, get visible. Girl, get visible. Girl, get visible.
Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of the Girl Get Visible podcast. So today I'm going to talk about being a podcast guest. If you follow me for a while, you've probably heard me talk about it before, but I'm going to talk about some of the things we need to know for this year. So for 2024, if you're listening to this in real time, and for 2024, if you're not, you'll see what changed and what's probably still applicable. Because one thing I can say is that from my previous advice, which I'll talk about a little bit too, of being a podcast guest and going on podcast shows and using that as a visibility strategy. It hasn't necessarily changed. I believe in everything I used to say, but it's grown. And maybe there's some things you need to watch out for. We'll talk about all of them here. But before we get into this, I want to talk about the sponsor for our show, which is our tool, SEO Assist. If you've been creating content for your business, if you've been trying to work with SEO and get it done, but you always get stuck with what to write, should I write this or should I say that? Is it the right thing? Is it not the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Then you need SEO Assist. Unlike other SEO tools that you may see out there, SEO doesn't just tell you what you should do, it actually helps you to do the work. We call it an SEO productivity tool because it's not just going to give you charts and grids and Excel spreadsheets with a bunch of analysis on what to do. It's going to actually say, here, write this. And then we got another module that's going to say, here, let's write it, right? And by the time you're done, you've got a full blog post. You've got interview questions for your podcast. You've got pitch letters, which we're going to talk about today. Even helps you with things like your meta tags and meta descriptions so you know what to put in there. And we've got a dozen tools within SEO Assist to assist you with getting the work of SEO done. Head on over to seoassist.com/demo and schedule a demo. Or if you just want to try out one of the things that we have available for you to try, head on over to seoassist.com/try-me and try one of our flows that is already open to you, and we'll give you 7 topic ideas to start working with. So let's get into this episode. Like I said, it's got a little to do with SEO Assist, but a lot more to do with you being a guest on podcasts, right? So this year, I'm going to say, and I say it almost every year, but as I said in the very beginning, it has really evolved and grown, that being a podcast guest is still one of the best visibility strategies you can use, right? And not just an SEO strategy, it is a visibility strategy because not only is it going to help you now have more things to get found for in search. So if you listen to a couple of episodes ago, I talked about getting found in Google as opposed to just being in Google. Being on podcast means when someone does go and Google your name, now there's more stuff that's going to show up rather than just your social posts, right? That's what we talked about in that episode. But it's going to help more things or have more things out there available to show up. So it's going to help you overall when people are searching for you. It's also going to help you on the socials because now not only are you talking about you, now you've got the show's host and that show talking about you. So they're usually going to, pass around and promote the episode and have clips of you. So now you've got all of this new and additional content that isn't necessarily content that you sat around and you made, right? People are getting a lot more discerning about, this is what you put out as opposed to this is what the world thinks of you. So being a guest helps more of that what the world thinks of you content get out there. And then speaking of discernment and where people are getting more discernment, it's going to start separating you from some of the chat GPT, just for lack of better words of saying it. But for the AI content that is out there, I keep seeing posts over and over again Some of them a little snarky, so I'm not saying I agree with them all, but I keep seeing posts about, not using ChatGPT. We can tell if it's ChatGPT content, stuff like that. And some of the times I'm like, how do you know the person didn't write like that before? Were you even paying attention to the person before? Like, really? You just know when it's Chat GPT? What? Because they sound smart? Because they sound like they know what they're talking about? One of the reasons why is because you didn't see them do it. When you're on a podcast, people see or hear you doing it, right? So they see and hear you talking about it. They get to see and hear your face. Like they get to have that sense of this is real. Again, not something that's contrived or not something that's from Chat GPT or some other AI source, so as people are getting more discerning, as we're getting more and more content because of AI out there, which part of that is good, the other part of that is bad because now people aren't really sure what's real, what's authentic, what's all the things that they really want to connect with, right? And so when you get on an episode and you just talk, right? No matter what the topic is, even if it's not something directly related to your business, it could be something like I've been on a podcast episode about being a caregiver. Now, I was a caregiver back. The whole episode in itself was I was a caregiver back in college to my grandparents. My father passed away. Whole long story. You got to go find that episode. I'll try to find the link and put it in the show notes for you guys. But because I was, and because it's part of my life, I was able to talk about it, from a very real place, right? Not say real authority, but authority on it because I lived through it and we'd gone through certain things, a authentic place because it was part of me. And not that it was like going right into my business, but now they can see the other side, kind of where I am now, that kind of thing. And it's just more people that might be like, hey, she's cool. Let me look her up, right? So they get to really start to connect with you more. And especially if you're on different types of shows, not just all business, they get to connect with you more on that personal level. That's something that AI can never regenerate, copy, or any of the other good things, right? So again, like I said, it's definitely not a new strategy, but it's a growing strategy and something that more and more people should lean into, right? Should get into, and it's definitely, I'm going to say the number one right now, visibility strategy. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, like how do you know it's a machine, right? But just the fact that everything you do right now is you promoting you, even if it's your team, you and your team promoting you and the voice of you and the name of you and everything you. Podcast is the one time or one of the very few times where it's we. And it's less than like getting on a stage because that's always going to be a good visibility strategy. But how often are you going to get on a stage, right? How often are you going to be on a summit or teach a course? And after a while, that kind of gets a little dead and saturated too. Podcasts, you can really spread it out, spread it thin, get all the things out there, get all of you out there. So that's one reason. That's the reason why you should, if you're not already, taking a very serious look at being a podcast guest. And then this is purely if you're a podcast host listening to this, because I know I got my podcasters, y'all should be guests too, right? You should seriously be considering being a guest too, because you are now authority on the thing you normally would podcast about. And now you can go on another podcast and have that conversation and connection with them. So don't negate that you should still be a podcast guest, even if you're a podcast host, almost doubly if you're a podcast host, because you got people who already like podcasts, right? It is so much easier for me to be on someone's podcast and tell them to go listen to my podcast, because that's literally like a 3-button click away than trying to get them into something completely different. Or even YouTube. I've been a guest on YouTube. It's easy to get them over to my YouTube because it's literally a 2-button click away to get over to my YouTube. So those are a couple of things. So let's talk about getting out there and being a guest, how to be a better guest in 2024, and then most importantly, what to look out for in being a guest in 2024. Because while it is a growing space and it's a good space, a lot more people are jumping on, right? And that might not always be the best for you to be a podcast guest. Yes, I did intentionally do the corny rhyme. So let's talk about you being a good guest. Let's start there. So first things first, even pitching to be a guest, you want to pitch on podcasts. Don't just rest on your friends who have shows, because most likely your friends who have shows, especially if like they're biz friends and people that you're on Facebook with, people in groups with, most likely you guys already have a very similar audience. So you're actually limiting your reach by not reaching out to more people, right? Not reaching out to podcast hosts that you may have no idea. You may have only listened to their show. You may have seen something here or there. You may have actually done some research, right? I show you guys in our Pitch Fest weekend class, we talk about how to be a podcast, how to find podcasts, not just those that was in your circle. So make sure you're pitching beyond just you and your circle. And if you go, or if you're already in, or if you go over to SEO Assist, we have a directory that right now sits at about 189 podcasts that are looking for interviews. So that's a good place to start your research. And we also have a pitch letter flow and a pitch follow-up letter flow, which are both two tools that'll help you write the letter and, pretty much write the letter, get it out there, and then be able to send the follow-up to that letter and all the other good things. So we got a couple of pitch tools for you in there, and that's one of the big things on our 2024 list. Like I said, SEO Assist helps you do the work, right? We don't just tell you what to do, we have you do the work. And so that is some really good tools that you can be able to use over there in SEO Assist. So let's talk about in your pitch. So one thing I can say is that a good pitch has never changed, right? A good pitch is going to let them know that you're truly interested and not just seeing them as a number. Let them know that you know what you're talking about and that you have things that they be good for them, their audience, to hear and listen to and talk and have you on the show to be part of that, right? A good pitch is going to be short and easy for the reader, and a good pitch, most importantly, is going to always be more about them than you. I'm actually going to link, I've got an episode, I forgot the number off the top of my head, but of the 10 worst pitches I've ever received to be on my podcast, because I got some doozies, right? And it's not just me, like I did the episode based on what I received, but then even last year when we did the ATM Summit, we had Corey Gums on and Bethany Hawkins who jumped in, and both of them, Corey runs the Black Podcast Association and Bethany is Chatting Over Chowder, and she's also a podcast producer, and we all winded up chatting it up really by the end of it all, talking about some of the pitches that we received. So if you did not go to ATM Summit last year, A, I'm going to say, watch out, make sure you come this year. But B, I'm also going to say the replays are available, right? So head over to my site and you'll be able to see where you can get the replays for that. I put that in the show notes as well, so you guys can get all the links, right? But most importantly, make sure it's more about the host and their audience than it is about you and what you want to share. Like, we all know that people want to be on podcasts because they have a business, because they have something they want to talk about and probably promote. We know that. We don't expect you not to have that. What we expect you to have in addition to that, or along with that, is a true something that I can share with my audience. And if you don't have that true something that I can share with my audience, then you're not giving me what I need. You're not giving what you're supposed to give, right? On that whole thing. And I can almost always tell from that pitch letter. The first one, definitely the second one, I could almost always tell. And I'm going to say, I did not say in the beginning of the episode, I'm going to caveat that this is even if you have a company pitching for you. Don't think they're doing it right. And don't think they're doing it, I don't have to worry about it. Because I've actually received the worst pitches from companies who were hired to pitch other people. So make sure when you're picking companies, whether it's my company or some other company, make sure that you're reviewing what they're sending out to people and that it's meeting this criteria that we're kind of talking about. Because, nothing's worse than getting a pitch that is just all about the person and no one cares about what me and what my audience needs. One of the things I said, so one of things number 3, making it easy, which is another place that SEO Assist can help you. And this is kind of a hidden SEO Assist can help you because it was not originally created for this purpose, but in its creation and use, we've seen how amazing it is. So you want to make it easy. You want to always give people something, like some type of topic ideas. I like to give at least 3 topic ideas. Don't give too many because that's a lot to choose from. Don't give too little because that's nothing to choose from. And definitely don't give 0 because I'm not doing the work to figure out why you should be on my show, especially if I don't know you, right? And so one of the things we have in SEO Assist is we have something that's actually for the podcasters. So it's on the podcaster side, right? For podcasters, it's called the interview questions flow. And what this interview question is that you can go and put a little bit about, what the guest does, what the goal of the episode is, who the audience is, and it'll give you 25 questions. Well, guess what we discovered in working with some of our clients? That those 25 questions, while they're good if they're going to be on a show, they're also really great when we're pitching for a show. Because and when you go to say, what are some of the things that I can talk about? I'd love to come and talk to your guest, your audience about this. You take some of those questions, and that's what it is, right? Those questions are things that people are asking. So maybe I'd love to talk to your guests about how to get on good podcast episodes. I'd love to talk to your audience about, how to incorporate AI without being, too copying and static and all the other problems, copyright infringement, like all the things that AI is bringing to the table, right? These are some of the things that come up in those questions that now can become topics. So we've actually found that it's been a really good way to bridge if you're not sure what your topic's about. And I even say, even if you're like, I know what I could talk about, right? We don't always get the I know what I could do. Even if you're like, I know what I can talk about, I still recommend running that interview questions, because almost every time I run that interview questions, even when we were down at Afros and Audio last year, we brought SEO Assist to Afros and Audio last year. It was pretty dope, right? And in bringing SEO Assist to Afros and Audio last year, we had people able to, podcasters and producers and like podcast community, able to try out that part of the tool where they were able to generate interview questions that they would potentially use on their shows. And every single time out of those 25, a lot of them were like, ooh, this is good, right? Almost every single time it came up with questions that even they had not thought about. So if you use it with an open mind, right, you're always going to get some things that you hadn't even thought about, or maybe it was like so basic you wouldn't think people needed to know that answer, but they do. Or so like we have something called controversial questions, like so controversial you wasn't got a little tiptoe on that. But almost every time, no matter how much you think you know what people want to know, it has given us answers and given us questions that were something above and beyond what the person doing the generation of the interview questions thoughts, right? So same thing, when you're doing your pitch letters, you need ideas. That is a great flow for that. Next thing you want to do, so once you send out the pitches, right? Let's talk about, before you even send back the pitch, let me step back a little bit to finding who to pitch and how that has really changed in 2024. So I talked about our directory, but overall, when you're doing the research, you want to, yes, stay away from, let's say, don't do your friends. Definitely pitch to your friends. What I'm saying is don't only pitch to your friends. If you guys send out 10, because I got 2 hands up, right? Make 5 to your friends and 5 that you did the research on. One of the things I'm gonna say, and I know some people are gonna get really upset at me about this, I'm sorry in advance. You'll be okay. You'll be okay, right? Is staying away from some of the newer shows. And I preface that, and I say that very slowly, because when I say newer show, I'm not talking about a show that's under 30 episodes, right? Even though in the directory we actually do have a checkbox that says, are you a newer show? I'm not talking about that when I say newer show. When I say newer show, I'm talking about somebody who's new to business, new to their audience, new to podcasting, just new to everything, right? I've got a couple of friends who have been in business for years. They are authorities in their game. People have been pushing them for years. Do a show, and this year, 2024, they're going to do a show. That to me is not a newer show, because the person has been out there. The person is an authority. They're just now taking their authority and putting it into a show. That's not a newer show. What I mean by newer show is that they haven't started with anything anywhere, and you are one of their first, I'm gonna say like 15 to 30, like depending on how far you are, right? Some people you might have to be like the under 10, but I'm gonna say the 15 to 30. And here's the reason why. No shade. The reason why I'm saying it's not to go after newer shows. And I was gonna say stay away, but I'm not saying stay away, because if they're your friends, my friends will tell you if they're starting a show, I don't need nothing. You, my friend, we cool. You can get an hour of my time and be talking. It's just what it is, right? To me, that's my good energy, my reciprocity kind of thing. Especially again, if it's somebody I know. If I don't know you, and don't become my friend so I can be on your show, right? But if I don't know you, then you maybe can't get an hour of my time. But if it's somebody who I generally know, even if they're just starting out, I'm gonna be like, you can get an hour of my time, right? I realize my time is valuable. I realize that, sharing something with me on it, people are going to listen. If this is going to help somebody I know with their come up, I'm all for it. The problem is when you have people who aren't necessarily established, aren't necessarily committed, and you don't know them enough to spend that time. Like I ask myself, would I have spent an hour of my time just chilling with you and talking? Would I have spent an hour of my time hanging with you at a restaurant or bar, right? Like if I would have spent an hour of my time like just shooting the poop with you, I'm in actually a room called shooting the poop, but if I would have spent an hour of my time just doing whatever with you, then that's an hour I can do a podcast with you. Now, if we're not cool enough that I would have just hopped on the phone with you and talked for 20, 30 minutes, right? If we're not that cool, then you're probably not a show I'm gonna be on because I don't know if you're gonna really, and I don't even know if you're gonna put out the episode. A lot of us, and I say us because I've done it, sorry y'all, where I've had episodes and I just never got around to publishing them, right? It's happened. You might hear some of them this week, this year, right? Sometimes but if they've never even started, like people rest assured that one day I'm going to publish it. If you haven't even started, then you're most likely never going to publish it. So now I would have wasted an hour of my time with someone who I normally would not have like killed time with. You know what I mean? So that's one. Two, their audience is not your goal, right? Your goal of doing this, we talked in the very beginning that this is a visibility strategy. This is a get you out there strategy. So if they don't have visibility in any place, hence why I say it's not just about how many episodes that makes them brand new. It's really also about their overall where they are right now in their business and their online presence. If they don't have any visibility, you getting in front of 5 more people may not be worth your time. And I know in the past I've said, well, it stays out there forever and you're always going to get the residual and stuff like that, which is still true. It still stays forever. Old episodes are still getting listened to, all of that good stuff. But I need you to have a better starting point if you're using this as a visibility strategy. If they've only got 5, yeah, it's probably going to grow to 50. If it gets lucky, it might grow to 500. I need you to start at 500. I need you to start at that. And if they're already so the show's already started and they got a little bit of traction, here's another thing I learned. Don't be afraid to ask people for their download numbers, especially if they're coming to you. So this is a little bit more advanced. So if they're coming to you and saying, can you be on my show? Or if you're in a group, I'm in a couple of groups, especially podcaster groups, that people are always like, hey, can anybody be a guest on my show? Anybody want to be a guest? And all these people answer, but they might tell you what the show's about, but they never tell you how well the show is doing. Because the other thing I've seen, I can't say it, I've seen a lot in 2023, and some people didn't even realize they were doing this, but I know enough about getting traffic and traction and podcast numbers and stuff like that to know that some of the numbers people was bragging on was low. And not low like I'm trying to down them, but low like if you really were putting effort behind this show, if you really took the time to have good SEO show notes, if you took the time to promote it consistently, not just sometimes, if you took the time to really put it out there, I know people even run ads to their show. Like if you took some time, your numbers shouldn't be that. If your show was good, your numbers shouldn't be that. If you had interesting topics and interesting guests that people wanted to come to, your numbers shouldn't be that. So in 2024, there's going to be a lot of things competing for our time and attention. And so I'm going to say you're going to have to get or want to get a little bit more discerning with where you put your time and your attention. And that's why I preface it like, if this your friends, you willing to spend that time, waste some time with, it's cool. Like you would have done it anyway. We would have gone out to lunch. I might as well do a podcast episode. Shoot, if we could find a quiet restaurant, just bring the mic, right? If that's okay, then that's okay. But if this is somebody you would not have done that with, then don't go be on our show. Just don't. Because it's not going to help you to the level you think it's going to help you. And you're going to be more mad and defeated at the end because you're going to say podcast guesting doesn't work because I didn't get anything from that podcast that I was on. And it wasn't because podcasting guesting doesn't work. It's because that particular show was not working. For whatever reason, that's another episode. But like I said, either they don't have enough, they haven't been promoting enough, they aren't doing SEO enough. There's literally no way. And I know a lot of podcast coaches. Y'all need some recommendations, let me know. They'll all tell you just about every show on any topic can work. What makes a show host of the show. And not even that the host is bad, but outside of the taping of the show, what else are they doing? Are they pushing the show? Are they making sure? Are they using a good guest strategy? There's a strategy to having guests on the show. It's probably another episode too. Let me know in the comments if you guys want one of those. Right? There's a strategy to having guests on your podcast to help you grow. Right? They may not be doing that. They're not. I'm going to continue to say they're not doing good SEO. Believe it or not, a lot of shows aren't doing good SEO. A lot of people are losing out on potential because they aren't doing good SEO on their show notes. They're not doing SEO, putting their show on their site. They're just not getting found. But that's not even the killer. You can have a successful episode show with even a shaky SEO strategy. That's where your guest strategy comes in. That's where your other promotion strategy comes in, right? That's where you gotta like if you're gonna have a short leg here, you're gonna have to lengthen, you're gonna have to make the other legs compensate for that. You know what I mean? Usually, if I see a show that's got very little episodes, very little downloads, very little traction, very little growth, then I'm gonna say no. So I'm gonna say in this day and age, in 2024, I want you guys to get more discerning about the shows you be on. Don't just be on a show to be on a show. Because what's gonna happen, while you'll get lots of shows out there, none of them, if everybody's not doing any work, then no work is getting done. So none of them are working to actually grow your online presence. And after a while, it's going to look like that's all you can do is get on weak shows. I hate to be mean, but I am, right? That's what it doesn't sound like all you can do is get on weak shows. And if all you can do is get on weak, underperforming shows, I don't want you on my higher performing show. I don't want you on my top performing show. So even when you pitch me and you say, I've been on these other shows, and I look at the shows and I'm like, no, those shows aren't doing anything. You didn't help them and they didn't help you, right? That's really the end all be all of it all. Is that neither of you guys are helping each other grow. I have a friend who used to say, two dead batteries can't start ish, right? She said the other word, but you guys know, right? We try to be curse free or curse low, not free. But either way, she used to say, two dead batteries cannot start ish. Well, that should hold true to your podcast guesting strategy too. Two dead batteries. If their show is weak and you're just getting started and getting your visibility out there, I'm not gonna say you're a dead battery, but you're not starting nothing. And they ain't not starting nothing. Nothing's getting started, right? So you're better off pitching to be on other shows that at least have medium start, some audience. You've heard people talk about it. When I'm pitching shows, not only do I do my research and stuff, but I look like if somebody says, what are some good podcasts you're listening to? That's the list I want. Even if it just had one person mention that, those are the ones I want to be on. Even if I ask my friends what shows they're listening to. And sometimes you got to preface it like, what shows that aren't these big name shows that, we can't even find the information to pitch to. What other shows are you guys listening to? I need new shows. What kind of shows are you guys listening to? That's a good way to now get a list that you can start with, right? Start, not always that list, right? So just one of the big caveats that I've seen change, last year I'd have been like, on everything, right? We got time. Last 2 years, we in the house, put on your computer, get on your camera, get on your mic. The other thing, this is the last thing I'm going to say before I end off this episode, really important for guys guesting this year. Get good at being on video. You want to be on video. Even you want to look like you want to be on video. Like I generally take most calls, I at least have on earrings and some lippy. That's a minimum, at minimum, right? So I at least have on those things. And not always, people are so used to video now, not always will they say, be ready for video. I've had people become guests on my show and come on and they weren't ready for video. And they'll be like, oh, well, I didn't know it was going to be video. And while most of my show is audio and it doesn't have to be video, you've now limited me in I'm not sharing clips because if you don't look good, I don't look good and we're not going to look bad together. We're not doing that, not on my show, right? So if you join and you're not looking like you want to be on camera or earrings and a lippy at least, unless you're not a lippy person, I get that. But if you don't look like I showed up for the audio will happen. We won't use it for video. Now I put most of my episodes also on my YouTube. So if you don't look the part, you aren't going on my YouTube. You aren't going to be on my TikTok. You aren't going to be on my Reels. You aren't going to be a bunch of places just because you didn't show up for video. Not because it was bad, not because I didn't like you, not because of anything. Sometimes me, my girl's like, hey, love you. I would love for this episode to be in all those places. But we are not going to look bad together. I'm not doing that. And I know some people, like, I used to watch I didn't watch the show, but I would see it in my news feed. And I never stopped to watch it because I swear every time I saw it, I would be like, I can't believe they showed up like that. Like, I get the whole, this is the age that, we work in our yoga pants. Y'all see, I'm usually now it's winter, so I'm in a sweater or in a track jacket. But you know how to look cute in a t-shirt. Don't come in your pajamas or your day jamas. These days, people got day jamas they wear during the day. Just don't come in a bonnet. I don't know. I don't think I have friends that would come in a bonnet, but just in case you were one of those people that would come in a bonnet, don't show up to nobody's episode on that. But I say what I say is be ready. Be camera ready, even at your most casual camera ready. Be ready. Because you just never know. Even when people are like, this is not going to be recorded, like not going to be out on YouTube or something like that, they just may want to take a picture. I used to always, before I moved over to StreamYard, which is where I do mostly my video and audio and stuff, I used to always hold up my phone, take a quick picture, that kind of thing. But if your photos don't look like we gonna do something, then why am I gonna share them? Why would I even be like, guess who's a guest on my show? This is gonna be a hot episode. Y'all have seen me do those things, right? And that's because this looked like it was a good show. This looked like it was fun. This did not look like we just rolled over. I said earlier, like if you would have lunch, you would leave the house, you would look like something decent. Do the same thing when you show up for a podcast episode. Look like something decent. Also, listen to a person's episode. Now, if you've been through my trainings, you've heard me say you don't have to listen to the episode at the very beginning. Like, don't listen. Let's say don't listen. You don't have to listen to them a lot before, but the moment you agree to an interview, listen to a few episodes. I have listened to episodes right before, because I was busy, not because of no shade, right? But right before I got on, because I want to hear how they talk. I want to hear their style. I like to reference something else. Like I know in a past episode y'all said, because that's a real indication that to the host that I prepared for this, and also to the audience. Because you got to think, especially for podcasts, usually podcast audience are their regular audience. They're people who tune in week after week. So they know what happened. This isn't their first time listening to the show either. And so when I'm listening to a show and the guest says something, I've actually had guests like, oh, I didn't listen to this before. You're not hurting me as much as you're hurting you. Because now my audience is like, you ain't even had a nerve to listen to us? Because we family, right? We a crew, we people. So when you didn't even listen to what we usually talk about, but here you are wanting to talk to us and be part of what we do and share and promote and talk and give us your expertise. How much of an expert are you if you ain't been checking for us? We know, right? Or when somebody says something, like I do my lightning round at the end of episodes, and it's always weird to me when people are like, I didn't know you were going to ask that. You didn't? Which in 2024, I'm changing my lightning round questions. I'm telling y'all that now. But hopefully they listen to this episode for that piece. But when people tell me they don't know the questions, that's a clear indication that you've never listened to not one episode or one interview episode of the show, right? So when you're going to be a guest, at least I try to listen to at least, like I said, one or two. I might listen to clips of them. I might listen to them on fast, 2X or something. But I listen so I have a little bit of an understanding of what they normally talk about, how they normally talk to their audience. Some people are more formal, buttoned up. Some people are more casual. Like people can tell when you are underprepared and you have not vibed. And it's not just the host who is listening. I guess that's my into that. It's not just the host who can tell. More importantly, it's their audience. So you're not hurting them. You're not offending them, or not just hurting or just offending them. You're hurting and offending your potential to get that audience and your brand, right? because if they don't feel like you connect with them because you don't know them, they're not going to want to go listen to your show, watch your thing, buy your thing, sign up for your freebie. They have no, like, I'm going to continue to be with you. Don't believe that. And then actually, bonus, stop getting on people's things without something to talk about. And not saying that's something to promote, but always have a freebie. Always have a next step with you. And the next step is not follow me on Instagram. Always. Everybody at this age and stage of business should have at least one opt-in. If you don't have an opt-in, I want you guys to do that this weekend. Like, stop everything you're doing, because none of it's going to count if you don't have a way to grab people. There are changes going on. There are actually changes going on with email. Gmail and Yahoo are making some changes. There are changes going every single social platform. TikTok went from informational to Home Shoppers Network literally within a matter of weeks, probably days. I wasn't paying not enough attention, right? So things are changing on platforms. Audiences are changing. Things keep exploding, right? Literally, we are still in the beginning of January of 2024, and so many topics have happened. I just saw one today. I almost feel like I need to stay off Instagram because every time I get on Instagram, I see something else that's like almost so traumatic. I want to talk about it. So this one, I'm going to say there was a secret tunnel in New York. I'm not going to go into it, but there was a secret tunnel in New York, and there was table flipping. Right? That's what I found today on, and I'm waiting for it. And I always kind of see it before, like, it's the buzz. That's the same thing with the flying guy in the courtroom. People are like, what flying guy? Go watch it. Go Google. I can't even. I can't. But things like that are happening every single day. And every single day when something like that happens, it means news feeds and social media news feeds get more clogged up with other information. So think about that too, that you need more things that are going to be out there. You need more things that are going to help grab the attention. You need to make sure that when you're getting in front of these audiences, you are creating some type of way for you to connect with them and come back to you specifically, not hopefully seeing you on IG somewhere or Facebook somewhere or join my group, because those fees are just getting crazy right now. For all the things that have flooded my timeline with Cat Williams, Stanley Cups, Starbucks boycott going bust, Flying Guy, tunnels in New York, all the things that have flooded my timeline in these first 2 weeks of the year, none of them have come to my email box. None of them. And what that means is I'm able to see business owners' content in my email. I'm able to see what people are promoting and sharing. There's probably a whole episode on why you should be leaning more into your email marketing this year too. We'll do something on that. I'll find me an email person to talk about that some more. But all these things that are happening throughout the world, which is going and permeating into social, aren't happening in the inboxes. And so if you are taking the time to get visible, you also want to take time to get them on your list, right? We always talk about get out there, get found, get visible, and paid. I need you to get out there, get found, get them on your list, and then get paid, right? You know, I need you to start incorporating that in a serious way into what you're doing, because 2024 has promised to be the year of, somebody actually said like the year of, it was the year of Aquarius, or the age of Aquarius, and the year of the reckoning. Like, a lot of things are happening. News feeds are going to be flooded. You're going to need another connection with people. So if you're going on someone's show, give them something, have something. Almost every podcast host will at the end say, how can people connect with you? Drop something related, right? I always talk about a lot about SEO. I have an SEO guide, and that's my fall guide one, right? I always say, if you want more help, go get the SEO guide. Now with SEO Assist, we have a flow that gives you content topic ideas. So I can always say, if you need more help coming up with ideas, go to this flow that we have open, and is actually a lead capture to get topic ideas, right? So there's always something, and that's always an important something, because like I just said, that is the thing that is going to help keep you in contact with people as news feeds flood right? And get all this extra stuff, right? That is it for today's episode. Hopefully this has helped you be a better podcast guest. I want you to come on over to our group on Facebook, ironically, SEO Growth Mob, or if you're watching this on YouTube, let's chat in the comments, because I spend more time in these comments than I do in other places. So let's chat in the comments about how does this help you, what other questions you may have. If you're also watching on YouTube, even if you're watching and if you're listening, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all the different things to the podcast, to the channel, so you can keep getting good information like this on getting out there, getting found, and getting visible. All right. Bye, guys. See you in search.
It is business. Big business.
Thanks for listening to the Girl Get Visible podcast. I hope you've learned a lot about how to get your brand out of sea of sameness and start to get visible. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show, and let us know how much you enjoyed it and what you've learned from this episode of the Girl Get Visible podcast. I'll see you in the next episode.